Hello everybody and welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking a little bit more about San Francisco, and we're going to be primarily touching upon two subjects related to San Francisco. And the first one is related to Panoramas of San Francisco. Now, most of you are probably aware of the infamous panorama by Edward Maybridge of San Francisco from 1878. And I think it was comprised of 13 separate images. But in the panorama, you can basically see San Francisco appears to be completely built out. Thousands of structures, stone, brick, multi-storied, and all that in roughly 27 or so years, and just doesn't really seem believable. And many people have talked about it, but I have come to understand there was an even earlier panorama, which we're going to talk about, and it's a 6-part panorama of San Francisco, but it dates between 1855 and 1856. Now, keep in mind, San Francisco roughly started up 1849, gold rush, 1,000 people population, and I think by 1856 they're up to 50,000 or 100,000. So this 6-part panorama, what's interesting about it, there's still a lot of structures. And again, we're talking, there was a great fire in 1851 that destroyed 3/4 of the city. And you're starting from virtually scratch, and just look at all these structures, in an extremely short period of time. And I just kind of wanted to share some of them. And according to this article, many historians peg the end of the gold rush at 1856. Again, just people just showing up, right? From 1849 to 1856. And there's a few great fires in the mix, and they have the time to build potentially, again, thousands of structures. But now they've done it in 5 or 6 years. It pushes the levels of acceptability here. Now, here's just a reference. In 1849, the population was approximately 1,000. By 1856, population soared to 50,000. Now that, I believe, it's just the amount of build out that occurred in that period of time with 2 great fires in the mix. So just, unbelievable in my humble opinion. And again, we're talking 3-4 story structures, and we've got hotels, banks, and even we got street lights here. We've got iron balconies, and you can see some of these balconies. So again, just in case you're new, I think the speculation is there was some event, a destructive event in our past, not exactly sure when, but it decimated this area. And at some point, at a later point, we come around and repopulate this city. Just crazy to think about. But I came across an article just talking about the origins of San Francisco. And in this article, they were just pointing out how visitors as well as residents were often amazed that such a significant city could come into existence in such a short span of time. And in 1856, the Golden Era wrote of San Francisco that a city of the respectability of San Francisco could be raised in the short space of 5 or 6 years appears incredible. And it actually possesses the appearance of an old city of a century. So it has the look of a city that's been there for 100 years as opposed to 5 or 6. So I just wanted to throw that article in because people are thinking the same thing in the mid-1850s. So yeah, just wanted to introduce this panorama, wild stuff. Now let's get on to our second subject of the day. And this one is going to be interesting. And we're focused in on this area. And again, we're on the western side of the city, San Francisco. And most of you are familiar with Sutro Baths. Used to be in this location. Now there's just these ruins. The Cliff House area, there's been several of these cliff houses. And this area up here was one of Adolf Sutro's residences, and he had his cottage or mansion. There was a conservatory, an observation tower, but all of that's gone, and all that's left is this wall and this parapet. And now it's called Sutro Heights Park. But what's of interest to us, and we're going to get to that in a second, this is just an image from the 1890s just showing this parapet wall. And there were statues all throughout his residence. He had a gardens as well, and there's actually archaeological excavations that happen in this area because I guess some of the statues were buried. That's a whole nother video. But we're interested actually with these bluffs that are just below this Sutro Heights Park and right around all these areas, the Sutro Baths and the Cliff House. But it appears there might be a little bit more to these bluffs than first thought. Now, I just should mention that the WPA, or Works Progress Administration, as I mentioned, all the structures that were part of Adolf Sutro's residence, they were all demolished by the WPA in 1936, and that was just a work program for people during the Depression. And this WPA, Works Progress Administration, they had a big impact in San Francisco and on all the parks. So that's worth mentioning. But these bluffs, I find them really interesting because I saw a video by a channel called I Am Kairos, and I'll leave a link to it. But in this video, he goes in this area and he starts looking at these bluffs. And when you really start examining this area, it appears that we're looking at more than just a random geological formation. There appears to be a lot more going on. And what I'm gonna do is play a little less than 3 minutes of a video I saw from this YouTube channel. And like I said, I'll leave a link to the full video. But the video I'm gonna show is just exploring this area. And I've kind of just taken bits and pieces from the original. And the original didn't have any voiceover, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of a voiceover on it. But let me just play that for you, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Okay, we're gonna be watching a 3-minute clip from the channel I Am Kairos, and this is Sutro Heights with that wall, the parapet, and here is the bluffs. Now here it sort of looks just like a natural formation, but when you get in close, there's a whole lot of bricks in this bluff, and as we're gonna see, some of them are even stamped with a manufacturer's stamp on them. And here is one, T car, and there's another one. He's chopping away at one of them with this rock hammer, but there's another one that's going to be visible here in a second. Upside down, there it is. So definitely not geopolymer, and some of these bricks go all the way up. They're at the top of the bluff, just sticking out. And how many people have passed by this without noticing? And this is just an awesome find, and it's in the same area where the Sutro Baths was and the Cliff House. But these are most likely, a majority of what you're looking at is red brick. So really interesting. And he's just scrolling. It looks like there's some interesting residue here, and some of these, what used to be bricks, here's some more bricks just randomly sticking out of the bluff here. So just another view of all these bricks, and just zooming out here, and I think he's going to focus in on just some more bricks. And it looks like almost like somebody has in certain sections, like something's been applied to the outside of the bricks. But in some other areas, it appears that like here, it looks like something happened to the bricks. Like, that doesn't appear like normal erosion to me, or weathering. But just really interesting stuff. And we're coming to the end of the video here, but I think he's just going to point out some more red brick here as he scrolls down, and here we go. Just all throughout this bluff, just a lot of red brick. So just really interesting, and some of them are stamped, and so it means that they're not just clinker bricks. And he's just talking about how it appears to turn into sandstone. So interesting observations, and I'll leave a link to the video in the description. So once again, thanks to the channel I Am Kairos for letting me share some of that clip with you guys, and you can watch the full length video on his website, and I'll leave a link to the video in the description. But what adds to the intrigue of all these bricks and this bluff is that so far I have not been able to find any history on what exactly is the origin of these bricks in relation to this area, because when you look at Sutro Heights Park and the residence back when there was a mansion and the conservatory here, and there's a lot of history that you can look up, and there's even archaeological excavations that you can read about in this area, and there's a bunch of history with regards to Sutro baths and with the Cliff House, lots of photos going back all the way to the late 1890s. So it's interesting that you've got all this history that's been documented, but so far I've not seen anything in relation to these bluffs and the fact there's even bricks there. So it doesn't mean it's not out there, that information. It's just so far haven't seen anything on that, but we'll keep looking. Now, yeah, speaking of some of those bricks, they just look like they've gone through something that is not quite natural, and some of them are in a sorry state, but you can come to your own conclusions on that. But I find it really interesting. And speaking of those stamped bricks, I just wanted to add a little bit. I just did some quick research on these T. Carr or Thomas Carr bricks, and from what I could find, the location of where these bricks came from was northeast England, Newcastle on Tyne, and we're told, according to the narrative, most of these bricks are produced between 1828 and 1881. And in this instance, with regards to this bluff, I think that this is a product of some event at an earlier point than that in our past, and I'm not sure exactly when, but I think that bricks that we're looking at in the bluffs are actually a lot older than this. But this is the official narrative, and again, just a sort of a disclaimer, I don't doubt that some of these bricks were actually produced in the 1800s, but I think there's just this missing history that we've talked about. But I did a little bit more digging as well. I came across this website, and they were saying Scottish bricks found in California. Maybe some of these other ones are Scottish, but these Thomas Carr bricks, I think they are from England. But this person found some of these bricks in the Waterloo mining complex, which is located in the Calico Mountains in San Bernardino, Southern California. So these bricks have definitely come a long way, but they are in California, and just interesting stuff. And I found I believe another website where somebody was selling some of these antique Thomas Carr bricks, and I believe the locate where this person found these was in Portland, Maine, on the east coast of the United States. And he's just mentioning in the description here, most of these bricks have been exposed to what appears to have been very high temps. And he just goes on to mention a couple of locations where he thinks that these bricks might have came from. And just really interesting, because when you do a little bit more digging on Portland, Maine in the mid-1800s, you come across the Great Fire of 1866, where 1/3 of the city was left in ruins, 1,500 buildings destroyed, and you get images. Before we look at that, this is supposedly the affected area of the Great Fire. But when you look at these images, it's just complete destruction. And this is what we see with a lot of the photos from Great Fires, and even this is kind of what we see also with the photos from the Civil War in the South, and a very similar type of damage. But what always cracks me up is the cause of these Great Fires. In this case, the Great Fire of 1866 started with a boy lighting a firecracker. Just unbelievable. Like, I don't believe this, but imagine if this was true. Like, how could you get any sleep knowing it just takes one firecracker for 1/3 of the city to be decimated? But as is the case too, after these great fires, a lot of times there's a record rebuild time. Portland, Maine was almost completely rebuilt in the following 2 years, giving the city its characteristic brick Victorian architecture. So in some cases, like with regards to Portland's Great Fire, I'm just wondering if these photos are real, if this is from this damage from an earlier point in time, earlier than 1866. But that's speculative on my part. But it's just interesting. You're finding these bricks, and there's also a great fire here as well. So just wanted to add these two things. Really interesting, and just a couple more pieces of the puzzle. So I think that's about it for today. I just wanted to once again give a big shout out to my patrons. Always, as always, appreciate your help and support, and I thank you very much. So with that said, until next time, take care. Bye.
If you're going